Hello everyone, welcome to the BBSim and Scalability Brigade meeting for January 31st, 2020. We have three items on the list, plus if we have time, I saw on Slack a message from Sora that was asking if we can think about why the computational stuff on the graph in the core is that complicated. So I'm just adding a point for that.
If that's what it is, I have nothing to go on other than just a hunch.
Sorry, Matt, can you say that again? I don't think I got it.
As to why that computation is so consuming for the GraphDV, that's just a hunch. I'm not sure if that's actually the cause. We can go over it later, but there's no data to back that up.
Okay. So one thing that you did list, Matt, was the twisted SED reader writer issue. Has that been fixed?
No. So that's never been fixed. So it turns out anytime we've ever used etcd in Volta, certainly after it's been broken up into parts and pieces, the Python library for etcd is not a twisted library. So when you do calls to get input, it will block. It'll block the reactor loop. So up until now, we've always gone back and forth on MIB storage, and I honestly think the problem we have with MIB storage under a high volume of traffic is all of those gets and puts were holding up the reactor loop.
Right.
So I plan on. I remember transfer so that you're going to continue. Luckily for right now,
You're kind of fading in and out, Matt. I don't know if it's you or it's me. Could be me.
I was hearing Matt breaking up a little bit too.
All right. Well, hold on.
Oh, that's a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I might be getting better self-reception.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, what I was saying is I might work on creating a twisted wrapper around that library, that etcd Python library, to return a deferred rather than blocking the reactor loop. The Kafka interface to the core works the same way. So luckily, though, for templating, the gets to the core, even with this style of etcd, is not intrusive enough to cause any issues. And they are just gets. So when you're pulling the template, it is just a get.
I see.
But again, yes, it is worth, between that and then some of the tech profile work in the ONU, they both use that same library.
Right.
And it'll be worth dealing with. And it's just not causing the level of stress that just the outright volume of OMCI was causing.
Right. Okay. So the 100 up to 170 ONUs reliably, how long does that take? I mean, how often are we generating the discovery messages for the ONUs?
So I guess maybe I'll kind of go through my experiences, and I guess everyone's test environment may be different. What I've found is within 2 to 3 minutes, with 256 ONUs being attempted, we can get the ONUs discovered, initial MIB downloaded with basic OMCI configuration, and ports advertised to ONOS within about 3 to 4 minutes.
For all?
Yes, for all 256. However, this is assuming, and I did this as a test, I turned off the ONOS OLT AAA, SADIS, DHCP2 relay apps.
Yeah.
Having those off, I can get it all the way advertised up to ONOS, port state enabled. The core, has a moment of load, but then it settles down pretty quick. The difference is when you're actually running the apps, aka actually pushing flows and wanting to do something meaningful, that's when we run into the core experiences very high load. I have a 10 CPU system running at 100% for each CPUs for about 10 plus minutes while the core is trying to process all those flows. And even then, it doesn't successfully get all of them. Kind of as Matteo indicated in his results, about 170 was what he was able to get. I got 192, but all of that was time spent in the core, digesting, processing, spending a lot of CPU time on flow processing.
Yeah.
Whether that's the device graph, whether that's flow decomposition, whether that's working through the state transitions in the core. Can't say for sure, but that's been my experience.
Okay.
So Matt, just to confirm, you're running on Docker Compose
Yes.
with ONOS,
Yes.
without the apps, and
Yes, that was.
What is the
So that
BBSim
was,
configuration?
actually use the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, how are you distributing the ONUs across PON ports, and which delay are they coming on?
So I took the config that you'd put in a Jira ticket. I think it was 1,000. I'm guessing that's milliseconds, and then I guess was it 8 and 10 or. I can't remember what was in the ticket. I don't have my computer in front of me anymore. But whatever you had in that ticket, I used that as a starting point.
That ticket is the one I opened yesterday for the with the core crashing.
Yeah. But I did use Docker Compose. So
That's
Docker Compose, yes, and the same BBSim arguments with the same delay.
So I'm just looking at that ticket, and I was running it with a delay of 1 second, 8 PON ports, and 32 ONUs. That means that we have 8 ONUs coming up every second.
Okay. Yes. Let me go look at my config.
Okay, I can try to replicate this on Docker Compose, because when I run on a kind cluster with the same numbers, I get basically between 170 and 200 ONUs activated, but often the core crashes.
Okay. Yeah, just again, keep in mind that test scenario I did run by explicitly removing the flows from the test just to see how far everything else is able to get.
Yeah.
So in the test I was doing yesterday, I was not even running ONOS.
Oh,
so that should be basically the same result, meaning that there are no flows pushed down to Volta. I wasn't just double checking that the ports were coming up in ONOS. I think the big difference is the resources that gets allocated to the RW core when running on Docker Compose and a kind cluster.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think Kubernetes may be taking a heavy hand with how much it ends up running up. Because again, with Compose, I let it run for minutes at a time at a pretty high load, and I'm pretty sure it was asking for quite a bit of memory as well. So it may be combination memory leak, combination of CPU bounds, and Kubernetes probably does not tolerate that for very long.
Yeah, it may also be the case that we have some resource constraints in the read-write core.
I mean, either way, whether you use compose or you use kind, it does sound like the code is now the bottleneck, right?
It's what it seems to me. That's what it seems to me.
Even for one ONU, back in the maybe a couple of weeks ago, when Matteo was doing his tests, there were a few things that seemed to pop out and look strange, like the number of etcd interactions. I forget whether I think it was the number of etcd interactions just for one ONU. It seemed to be inordinately high, and go ahead.
That was before the template, though, right?
Well, no. I mean, even with or without the template, right? The ONU adapter is not writing to etcd right now.
It might be OLT. So ONU up until very recently didn't interact with etcd a whole lot at all. Though OLT adapter through Resource Manager and obviously the core does extensively.
Yeah. So what is referring? What sort of is referring to is this document about a quick scaling analysis we did on Vault, and we see these first 4 lines were before the mid template, and even before enabling a single port in ONUS. So this result may not be accurate anymore. But for a single ONU, that is the first line, to get it through discovery, ePOL, and the HCP, there were more than 1,000 requests to etcd.
Oh, wow.
Another point to bring up too is I think this data was collected before we excluded inactive or unused uni ports.
Yeah. That's why you see 5 ports reported to us.
So in this scenario, there was a lot of tech profile, resource manager activity around ports that we're never going to.
Yeah, it seems like do we even need to write to etcd until the ONU is in some kind of stable state? I mean, if everything is maintained in local RAM, and then once the ONU has achieved, a configured state, and then you write to etcd, because then you're saving that state for a failure condition, right?
Yeah, so this is some of the, at least in the OLT adapter, the interaction with Resource Manager is very much a query and set directly to etcd as you need. There's this back and forth on cache and interacting with cache. And I know earlier or late last year, it was OLT adapter was much more cache only, meaning that there was no persisting of anything into etcd. Now for reconciliation, it's persisting pretty much anything it needs to do into etcd, and it's probably doing it at every moment of either query or set.
Yeah, I think we probably don't need that. I mean, if the ONU comes up and is achieved a stable state, then we want to save that. If it's transitioning to that state, then and there's a failure, then we need to reset the ONU and just have it come up again.
Right. Well, so the reaching stable state, I guess defining that. So right now, in my mind, that is stable state is, and the initial MIB is downloaded, and we have told the core and ONUS that we have ports available, right? That up until that point right there, OpenOLT adapter hasn't done a whole lot, or if anything, regarding tech profile provisioning. I'm pretty sure it's nothing. I don't think it's done anything for tech profile provisioning. I think the moment that the subscriber flow or the ePOL flow is added is when this tech profile conversation really kicks off, and you now have a whole lot of interacting with the core. So it's like initial stable state is, I have an ONU, I have MacBridge ports, I have unis, what do you want to do? And then flows start coming in, and that's when the activity really starts.
Right, but I mean, is that state something we want to preserve through a failure? As opposed to just, okay, let's just restart that ONT again and have it come up. in another
So
context?
none of that state currently right now is persisted to storage. This is all, at least in the ONU adapter. In the OLT adapter, it does it as, as needed per set. For the ONU adapter, at least my initial plan is this is why I put off reconciliation for it, was to end up working the MIB storage needed for reconciliation somewhat similar with templates, with basically continuing to let it to work in memory and then setting like a dirty bit in the in-memory structure, so that some time period later, when things are idle or when there hasn't been a whole lot of sets after a certain amount of time, it'll wholesale write out the whole database record for the ONU to storage.
Yeah, sounds good.
But for OLT, I don't know if there's any plan or talk to do the same thing, but it could do the same sort of kind of dirty cache, dirty write sort of logic.
So it sounds to me like we should repeat this experiment for one ONU and then maybe 10 ONUs, kind of the way that Matt was doing. First, let's not have anything coming down from ONOS, right? And see what kind of numbers we are getting, and then turn on the apps, so to speak, in ONOS, and then see, what's the difference in the numbers. That should be one data point. That should tell us something. Matt, you also said that Don was looking at profiling the core.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd be on today. I haven't talked to him since day before yesterday.
Okay.
When he was trying, though, he was having problems. There's code you inject into the core to have it reach out to the profiler, and he was having some challenges trying to get that to connect properly. But he may have gotten past it.
Okay.
I'll ask him today.
Okay, great. So that's probably our best next steps, right?
Yeah, sounds good. So the state that the system's in, if you don't have the ONOS apps turned on, is basically the core, from its perspective, is essentially creating the devices and creating the ports, but nothing's coming down because ONOS isn't creating any flows, right?
Yeah, it's reporting all of that to ONOS, and that's good. But ONOS is not taking any action. I mean, it doesn't take much action anyway, right? All it does is send the EAPOL flow. That's pretty much all it does right now. But even that, we can. But like Matt was pointing out, sending down the EAPOL flow triggers off, the tech profile stuff. Tech profile download, right?
Right.
So yeah, we can observe the effect of with and without. Go through the same procedure, and we collect some data points and see. I mean, those numbers we needed to redo anyway. They were before the change that Matt made to reduce the number of uniports that are enabled.
Yeah.
They were also done with, not the ideal conditions that we want to do it in, right? We hadn't really turned off logging everywhere. So we need to redo those numbers. So that's going to be one data point, and hopefully Don makes some more progress with the profiler. And then that should give us some clues. It should give us some data points leading to clues about where the core is in the is being the bottleneck.
Right. For what it's worth, while this was going on, I was watching OLT adapter, and its load was nowhere near anywhere affecting the other ones. So let's say if the core on my test system was at like 1,000%, so 10 CPUs, very busy. ONU adapter hovered between 22 and 30% of a single CPU. OLT adapter hovered around 2% of a single CPU. So OLT adapter wasn't busy.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so the other thing, there are some optimizations around resource, the TC layer attribute allocations we might be able to do if that proves to be an issue for us. But I
think it'll be interesting to see with a distributed etcd, right? So this is where when you have a three cluster etcd all having to coordinate those writes, things then might start revealing itself a bit more differently. But again, my observation right now is that hasn't been an issue.
Okay, yeah, because we can make the allocations less granular to reduce the accesses to etcd if we need to. But, okay.
Matt, just to confirm, are you running with a single etcd instance, right?
Yes, single etcd. So yeah, that may also color this as well.
Yeah, especially as all the flows come down and the core starts to ramp up its accesses to etcd. If that twisted library is not, the non-twisted library is an issue, then maybe that is rearing its ugly head.
Well, so here's the thing: is by the time flows are being pushed, the ONU adapter isn't interacting with etcd anymore, right? At this point, the template's loaded and the ONU is completely working from memory at that point. So the OLT adapter, it doesn't use twisted at all. It's using Golang and Go threads. So
yeah,
it's not in that same scenario.
Well, the core also actually is, right? I mean, that's all Golang now,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that shouldn't be an issue. The other thing we were speculating on too was that once, like in the case where you create one ONU, now ONOS is also polling for PM, right? And the speculation was that as you added more devices and more flows, that message is going to get a lot larger, and I don't know how that would affect.
So I don't think we're even getting to that point yet, to be honest.
Well, yeah, not if ONOS isn't creating flow, sure, but if it is, then it's going to start doing that. And before ONOS is running, everything seems fine, right? I mean, actually, Mateo's system is behaving badly. Matt's system seemed to be behaving well, so we were speculating that was a Kubernetes resource.
Well, being in the case that I let it continue to suffer in silence for minutes at a time. But regarding the PMs, there was a change that I got in recently as well that we no longer start, at least on the ONU adapter, no longer start PM collection until the MIB is in sync and we're ready to actually interact with the ONU. But then also the start point of that collection is now randomized. So every ONU may, between 10 and 50 seconds later, at some random interval, decide to start collecting PMs. Now, that could be improved on, like the retry intervals after that initial start could probably be randomized as well, but at least that starting point is now offset.
So I think Scott made an analysis on the PM collection, and he verified that mostly all the events were skewed across the news except one. His brigade is working on fixing it, if I'm right.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere it's like at a 15-minute interval by default. So
yeah,
there may need to be some offsetting there as well.
Well, you need maybe some boundary, some guardrails on the times, right? As long as you get around everybody within 15 minutes, you're good.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to collect the new result with the MIB templating patches applied, and I'm going to share them on the mailing list. So we'll get something out of it. I'll also send out on the mailing list the setup I use for the test, and I actually have a script that I run to get all the information. So I'm going to share that as well.
One other question was, so the final commit for MIB templating, I haven't pushed yet. I really just wanted to talk it over with everyone and make sure between all the testing we've all done, we're good with it. And if so, I can go ahead and merge it. It's got the number of +1s needed.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So I've been running with that patch all the time, and I've never seen breakages. So I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
With merging it.
Cool. Good deal.
So if this ends up in our nightly regression, then how do we create a template for our alpha and Iskritel ONUs?
So
do you already have that? Or?
So the alpha, yes. The Iskritel, so template creation right now is an issue. It's a bit of an awkward process where we have no way from a northbound API to say dump out a temp or dump out a database or dump out an ONU. So there's no real way of cleanly getting to that, which probably needs to be a new feature. What I've done so far is whenever a new ONU's MIB is in sync for the first time before any provisioning is done, and the ONU is running in debug mode, the entire JSON database for that device is written out to the log. I then take that out of the log and remove a few of the timestamp fields, replace a few of the serial number and MAC address fields with the tokens, and then basically name it in a way that's compatible with what we expect the template to be. So it's a manual process, and it's a bit of the slice and dice of the log to do it, but it's certainly doable.
But also, if the template is not loaded, everything will keep behaving as it is expected to be.
Correct. Yep. So if the template doesn't match the lookup in etcd based on equipment ID and vendor ID and software version, then it'll just skip the template part and proceed like it does today. So like text
have you done
this?
You've done this for the BBSim ONUs then, basically?
Yes. So I have a template for a BBSim ONU, the 2 alpha ONUs that I have to test with, and a Nokia ONU.
And have you loaded these templates on the sort of the design docs folder or something, or the brigades folder? It's probably the brigade. Huh?
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's on the push commit or the push request. I put it there just so somebody could get to it easily. I don't have to add it to the push request. It would be better if it were in a design docs, kind of like tech profile is, wherever those are stored as well. But for now, it's in the push request.
Push request? You mean the patch on Get It?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a new folder called templates.
Examples. Yeah. Okay. That's something like
in the patch with the existing templates and the script to load them into etcd.
So we should do that also for our ONUs. Perhaps capture the logs in debug mode and feed it to Matt so he could clean it up in the required format and push again.
Yeah, and I can do this one, and I'll write up what my procedure is. It's not complicated. It's just like you said, a little bit of grepping and a little bit of search and replace.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, if that's good for you, I'll merge the patch for the template.
Yeah.
Okay, patch merged. The MIB templates are now part of the released vault, or the master version. So everyone will get it by default.
And it went through hardware test, right?
Yeah, a bunch of times.
Cool. Thank you. So we have action items for this story, at least.
Yeah, I have an action item to redo the test and to collect, create a template for the Iskritel ONU and verify that the template for the alpha matches the alpha we're using.
And Don's profile of work.
Yeah. I'll ask him about it.
It may also make sense to start asking Ken to join these calls, since core seems to be the next level of bottlenecks that we are seeing.
Yeah, we can involve Ken starting from from the next call.
Yeah. Can you make that an action item too, so we don't forget?
Okay. So the second topic is very quick. Is basically the old outstanding patch for the ONU indication retry that has been a little bit of a fight because Volta libgo kept moving. There are breaking changes as now it's blocked by this other patch that introduced a context into the Volta libgo, but has never been merged in the OpenML adapter. Needs to be rebased, but the owner of this patch seems to be not responsive, so I'll try to get in touch with him again. But apart of that, there is still some issues with the way we are cleaning up the resource allocation when the news are discovered that I need to address. I realized yesterday that there are some corner cases in which the news are duplicated, and I'm trying to figure out why. Sometimes it seems like that anytime a new discovery indication is received for the same new, we are actually creating a new device instead of reusing the existing one. But we'll eventually get on top of that. And the last point we had was an IGMP status recap. I know there is a patch that is pending. There were some issues with the Protos that I recreated yesterday, and that got it to pass the unit test. I've seen that tonight there has been a new patches, and now the unit tests are failing again. So I'll try to look more into that because the patch looks fine. Looking at it on Garrett, I need to spend some time on it to understand what is actually going on there.
Okay, but I wanted to hear from Shubham and Arjun. What is left beyond this patch? I mean, what functionality remains, or is this all? This is it?
Saurabh, Arjun here.
Yeah.
So apart from this patch, there is IGMB v3 support for BBSim. That is IGMB membership, IGMB v3 membership report message that is being sent from the BBSim, and the response handling for the IGMB.
Response handling for the IGMP? I didn't
that like for now we are only sending the messages from BBSim, right? The IGMP packets.
Right.
So we are also trying to implement the response handling that is being sent back from the multicast router to BBSim.
From the multicast app for the IGMP
multicast
proxy
router
app?
is not present in kind water setups.
No, what I meant was that,
from the IGMP proxy app only, but
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So when you send IGMP from BBSim, the IGMP proxy app will send it back to you, right? To send it out of the NNI port, right?
Yeah, so, but you should, okay.
So you're saying BBSim needs to handle that IGMP proxy returning from the IGMP messages returning from the proxy app, right?
Yes.
Yes, right. Saurabh, basically for this in process ONU messages, okay, we have added a check, and there we are handling the IGMP message types. But when we try to see the TCP dump of this, we are able to see the response, IGMP response there. But it's not reaching the BBSim app.
Okay, this entire IGMP thing is configurable, right? You can turn it off. There's
Yes,
what I mean is that
it's an OLT.
Go ahead.
Yeah, basically, is it the OLT flag? We have a flag there, enable IGMP on provisioning. So by default, it's false. We make it true, and after that, we try to do the testing work. Do we need any kind of multicast router for this thing? Is there any additional things required which is not available in kind Volta support?
I'm not sure what you mean by a multicast router. You mean a server?
Yeah, kind of that, which will forward the packets from IGMP to BBSim application. I mean, I tried checking the logs for Volta agent, okay, and in that logs I was able to see other types of other types of packets coming, but I was not able to see the IGMP packets.
Okay, you're using some terminology that I'm not quite following. Okay, let's take it step by step. You're generating IGMP packets from BBSim, right? These are making their way up to Volta, correct? Volta, and then to ONAS, correct?
Yes, right.
And then the IGMP proxy app learns from the IGMP joins and then sends it back out towards Volta, correct?
Yes, right.
But Volta doesn't send these back to BBSim?
Back to BBSim. Yes, yes. Exactly, that's what's happening. I mean, when IGMP receives this IGMP packet from BBSim, it adds the MCAS routes. Okay, and there we are able to see the IPs, whatever we have provided in the packet. And for that, we are also able to see the response in PCAP files when we capture the TCP terms. But BBSim is not receiving any packet because we want to decide whether the join or leave was successful or not. So for this functionality, I mean, it's not receiving the IGMP packet.
But there is no acknowledgement for like a join, right? It's just you start receiving the channel or you don't. You're not seeing the actual data for the channel, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's right. So this when the IGMP proxy app sends the packet back to Volta, it should just come to BBSim as a packet out, supposedly through the NNI port, right? So if you're not seeing this packet out, then you need to go through the Volta OpenOLT adapter logs to see what's happening to this packet out. Why is it not coming through? Okay. And in addition to that, if you have the CORD multicast app running, then it's going to start sending things like, multicast groups and multicast flows.
Okay.
So you're getting none of the three things. You're not getting the packet out. You're not getting the multicast flows. You're not getting the groups. Is that right?
I'm getting the multicast flows I'm getting.
Okay.
And multicast groups also, I guess I've seen them. Okay, but I'm not getting the packet.
You're not getting the IGMP packet. Okay. So you should be able to identify the IGMP packet, what is happening to it in the OpenOLT adapter logs. Usually the packets are printed out in hex if you're running it in debug mode. The big packets are printed out as hex with a clear log message that says that this is a packet out meant for the NNI. Okay. So try to identify what's happening to that. Do you even see that message?
Okay. Yeah.
I can send you an example of a similar message, say, that is intended out of the NNI port, say like a DHCP packet. And you should be able to identify something similar like that.
Okay.
Fine.
So we'll have a look at that example, and I'll try to identify by checking these logs. Okay, and I'll keep you posted on this. I mean, whatever I've analyzed, I'll keep you posted on this.
Sounds good.
And apart from this, we have few more tickets. basically we have created 4 tickets for IGMP apart from 660. So one is to add version 3 support in BBSim, and we'll be like submitting its patch soon. Okay, and another one is processing IGMP response from owners. This is the same on which we are discussing now. And one ticket is to move the code which is which we have which is supposed to be in Go packet library, like serialization and checksum implementation. Currently, it's available in our local code base of BBSim. So what we discussed earlier is that like once this Seba 660 gets merged, we'll wait for some time. If there are any bugs reported in community, then we will fix it and we will move it to the Go packet library.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'd like to bring this work to a completion as quickly as possible because,
Yes.
it's been a couple of months, maybe more.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to give it a push so that we can get this stuff going. Okay.
Yes.
The actual multicast implementation on hardware is also nearing completion. There's one key feature that is missing, but I'd like these both to converge at roughly the same time in February. So yeah, let's try and get this through. Thanks.
Basically, due to some new process have been introduced, so due to which this patch got submission. It got delayed in submission.
Okay, but as I understand it from Vijay Kumar is that the initial patch submission has to go through that 5 levels of approval internally, but every subsequent patch on that only needs 2 levels. So basically, Vijay can forward it.
Yes, right.
Vijay can approve it. Yeah.
Yes. We have 5 tickets for this. So for all of these 5 tickets, when we are going to submit it for the first time, then at that time it needs 5 levels of approval. So we are pretty much sure, we'll be working, like things will be pretty soon and will be fast right now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Mateo?
Okay, thanks guys for the updates. We have discussed all the items we had on the agenda. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
Teo, are you coming in today?
I'm already in.
You're already in. Okay, thank you. Yeah, talk to you in a bit. Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day or weekend, depending on your time zone. I'll talk to you next week or on the back. Bye, everyone.
Bye.